This story made me regret watching that episode of Criminal Minds. I will never think the show the same way again. After that thing visited me and my family, I really kind of believe a little bit more in the paranormal than I did before. But a couple hours ago, a couple days ago, after that episode of Criminal Minds was on, well, of course, the TV, I watched it with my husband, and we both thought that Mr. Scratch, which apparently was some sort of black demon in that episode, we both thought he was pretty terrifying. After the episode ended, we decided to head off to bed. Well, I told my husband that he had to go off to bed because he had to go to work early the next day because his boss wasn't going to be in until about 10 or 11. And he had to be there about 8 or 9. So I told him to go to bed and that I'd be up there in a little bit. So I watched a little bit more of some Criminal Minds. And I thought I heard what sounded like some sort of scratching noise come from what I could assume was the dining room. The scratching I definitely thought was alive. It obviously had to be. Nothing else could possibly scratch in this house, except for the old record player that we had. I know, we're an old family, shut the hell up. It's our lifestyle. I went to the dining room and nothing had changed. Then I started getting the feeling that I was being watched. I really had no idea. I really thought that all this Mr. Scratch stuff was just getting to me, so I decided to just blast off the feeling. Let me tell you something. I believe about 25% in the paranormal. Not very much. I did find that some of that paranormal stuff was just bullshit. But after this, I believed a little bit more in it. Anyway, I got back on the couch and watched a little bit more Criminal Minds. Then I decided to start heading upstairs. So, as I was heading upstairs, I thought I got that feeling of being watched again. I went back downstairs and stared into the dining area and thought I saw two white objects. They almost looked like eyes. I thought I was just hallucinating. When I blinked again, they were gone. I was getting a little bit freaked out at this point. I went upstairs and my husband was barely asleep. He was kind of a pussy when it came to all this paranormal stuff. I decided to stay up a little bit more just in case if old Mr. Scratch was going to come along and probably kill me and my husband. I really didn't think that that thing was real. I mean, why would something like that even be real? I really have no idea. So, me and my husband, we then fell asleep. I had to get my kids up in the morning at about 7. Their bus comes around at 7:30, so I had to make sure to get up about 6 or 6:30, so I was able to get like an hour and a half or an hour to be able to get them up. A couple hours later, while me and my husband were sleeping in our bed, we both heard a bang on the staircase. It sounded like a couple of our family pictures had fallen off. I ran over to the stairs and yet again saw the two white objects. At this point, I knew that they were eyes, and I ran back into my husband's bedroom and shut the door. I had completely forgotten to lock it. I was able to get a perfect view of the door, and what scared me the most which I don't know why, is when the door opened and the lights in the hallway flickered on for just a moment. But what I was able to see was absolutely terrifying. I saw what looked like a black, almost translucent shadow that had white eyes and had very long fingers, or talons, I guess. It wasn't until I shouted loud enough for my kids to even be able to hear me, "Mr. Scratch!" I had no idea what to do. This thing was blocking the only way for me and my husband to get out. There was one other way, but it was too risky. Our bedroom was on the second level, and we didn't want to jump out the window and down to the bushes below. Probably Ben I would hurt myself, and probably Ben he would probably break his back. He's about 50 years old and I'm 45, so he would probably have the bigger risk of hurting himself. But it was the only way. The figure then started walking closer to us, walking closer to my husband. I then grabbed his arm, opened the window, and we both bolted out the window. We jumped out the window and fell 2 stories down to the bushes below. Good thing the bushes were cushiony enough to be able to stop our falling. When we looked back up, after we had run about a yard or 2 away from the house, the lights in the bedroom were on, and all I was able to see was that figure. I told my husband to call the fucking cops. This was absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, it had to be someone playing some sort of a joke. Probably been whoever that person was also saw the episode and decided to play the old Mr. Scratch joke on me and my husband. When the police arrived, about 20 minutes later, they asked us if we had our doors unlocked in case it was a joke. We said no, that we had locked them. The officers then seemed confused, or at least the female one seemed confused. She asked us if there were any other entrances into the house. I said, no, I don't think so. I mean, if there was, I'd be able to know. This is when they really got puzzled. They decided to call the Criminal Minds group. Apparently, I didn't even realize that they were even a real group. About an hour later, they pulled up, and we told them the whole thing. One of them, which I imagine was Dr. Hutchins, said, "Oh, fuck. Looks like Mr. Scratch has struck again." I then asked Dr. Hutchins, "Didn't you catch the guy who was disguising himself as Mr. Scratch in your episode?" All of them said yes. My husband then asked the leader, which he completely forgot his name, if maybe Mr. Scratch was really an actual demon. He said it could be possible, but he had no idea. After that, I never watched Criminal Minds again. I mainly stuck with Law & Order SVU and NCIS. I never watched another episode of Criminal Minds again. And I will never forget that night. That night honestly scarred me for life. I still wonder, what would have happened to me had I stayed up the entire night?